Yes, that worked. So we're live right now. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there? Wendell, how you doing?
I'm okay. I just got done playing Fallout, so I'm still riding the high from that. Not that
Any
Fallout is a great gaming experience or bug free or anything. It's pretty much just a constant cavalcade of bugs. In fact, I had a
yeah.
no clip out of a car on the stream because I jumped into a car and then it was like you're in the car and that was it.
I think the easiest way to say that is just it's a Bethesda game. Like you could have shortened everything you just said by just saying, yeah, it's a Bethesda game, you know. So what do you expect? So now we got to wait for the community to fix it. So thanks, Bethesda. I haven't played more than like an hour yet, and I keep meaning to, but I haven't been in a gaming mood. So, you know.
What didn't we blame it on like Take-Two Interactive last time?
Yeah.
But I don't think they're part of this now.
I don't know. I gotta have somebody to blame. This time it's definitely all Bethesda. So yeah, it's been a long week looking at places because we're moving very soon. So the next month will be a transition period. So thanks everyone on Patreon for supporting us. Hopefully, once we get moved, we'll find a place that's slightly more permanent. I'm getting really tired of moving from temporary spot to temp spot, and then having a small office like this. It's a bit rough, but to celebrate the new move right after the beginning of the year in April, we have LAN Syndicate coming up. Be sure to get your tickets before the end of the year because then the prices will go up. We are trying to sell as many as we can before January because January is when we have to pay the bills. So we have to pay the bill for the giant facility that we're renting. So we're giving you guys a bonus incentive to go ahead and grab your tickets. So just go to landsyndicate.com or you can head over to EpicPants and grab the tickets there. Yeah, there they are on sale for $75 and they will be $90 after the beginning of the year. And for as much, freaking fun we're going to have, it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Oh, you might want to turn your earbuds down, Wendell. I can hear myself. I wonder if anybody in the, in the comments can hear. I don't know how this all
It's
works.
like there's an echo, and it's like, well, I have it's the microphone is unbelievably sensitive. If I turn the gain up on the mic, I can hear my own heartbeat, and that's really crazy.
I'm going to say hi to everybody in the comments right now because we're doing this live. What's going on, everybody? Everybody's like, the number one comment right now is, why not Twitch? Because this is going to be on YouTube. And I'm not a big fan of the Twitch system all that much unless I'm gaming. So anyway, let's check out what's going on this week in the articles. So there's a pirate, and where is he? He's in the Czech Republic, right? Dude's name is in here somewhere. I've forgotten it already. So anyway, this is a very strange case. He's a pirate. He's been downloading lots of things. And of course, the main way to get caught is by re-uploading it. So he downloaded Windows and a number of different programs and apps and games, and he was a big member of the Wares community. He was uploading them to different places thinking he wasn't doing any damage, and sure enough, he got in trouble. So they took him to court, and he has to pay a ridiculous amount of money, which he does not have. I mean, these things over there, it's actually substantially less money than or whatever than you would see here in the States. Go ahead.
It was some kind of an out-of-court settlement, but there's a clause in it that says that if he doesn't get 200,000 views, that he will be open to a civil suit, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't know if it works exactly the way that it does here, but I don't know if a judge is overseeing the settlement or whatever, but technically it's an out-of-court settlement, which is why it's sort of an unusual situation.
Right. So here's the video down here on the bottom that he had to make. It was like a PSA for their the BSA, which is the Bullshit Alliance. Actually, it stands for people are yelling at me already. I can hear them yelling at me for scrolling around. It's the Business Software Alliance, but we're just going to call it the Bullshit Alliance. But anyway, he had to make this video down here. Down here. And it's already got like 500,000 hits, so I guess he played his role, but that seems a bit weird to say, like, you're going to have to pay us a ton of money or get a bunch of hits on a PSA. I mean...
Well, they acknowledged that he didn't actually have any money, so this was the best way for them to get some kind of value.
That's crazy.
A little bit, yeah.
It's because I'm sure he didn't want to do this video. He was basically coerced into this. Is that like legal in countries everywhere? Is that legal anywhere? I don't know. In your country, is that legal? Are they allowed to coerce people?
No, I mean, he could have totally gone to court. It was his choice to settle out of court.
Weird.
This seems like a less horrible outcome for him, so I think this is probably what he wanted to do in the face of, other things. I mean, look at the Pirate Bay guys, the original Pirate Bay guys. I mean, they chased those guys halfway around the world and hired PIs and just a bunch of people just to mess with them, basically.
Right. Well, speaking of Pirate Bay, we've got some activity going on in Sweden with the Pirate Bay, and some courts have ruled that you can't ban the Pirate Bay. So it was an interesting case here. basically one of the ISPs there, they've been getting letters from all of the different copyright holders and, all the different organizations, companies, Universal Music, Sony, Warner Music, Nordisk, just Swedish film industry. All these people are suing, and they're saying they need the ISP to stop allowing, Pirate Bay traffic. So just turn it off completely. And the judge ruled no. So that's kind of interesting. It was a unanimous decision. The court said no, they can't do that. You can't just sue an ISP to tell them to stop something. So they'll have to go after essentially the Pirate Bay itself. So you have that happening over there, and I think that's the correct decision, because it's ridiculous to force an ISP to police the traffic. That's just silly. I mean, it's really, really, really silly. But if you come back over here in the States, let me find that article. I think I've moved it over. If you come back over here in the States, the exact opposite thing has happened. So we have a judge here, and you've got RightsCorp and all that nonsense. They've been suing Cox for a while because they want Cox to deliver these they're not takedown notices. They're these messages that pop up on the screen, and they're like, "Hey, dude, you've been caught stealing some stuff. But here's what we're gonna do. If you give us $20 per instance, then we won't sue you for a gazillion billion dollars, because you know that each song that you download is liable for hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages, because that makes sense." So anyway, that's what they're doing. And Cox has not been doing that. They haven't been cooperating. So now, all these different organizations sued Cox. Cox got in trouble, and the judge actually said that it is Cox's responsibility, and Cox is in trouble here. So it's almost the exact opposite there. And that's kind of a troubling precedent if you think about it, because Cox, all they're doing is providing a service. Just like in Sweden, all the company was doing was providing a service. It's like they're providing the roadways. They're not supposed to be on the roads telling people what they can't carry in the back of their truck, essentially. But I don't know. What do you think about the implications of this one, Wendell?
The judge here, on the one hand, I'm not really sure what the judge is thinking, because the ISPs really do have a good case as far as being common carrier. But, and the judge said that the amicus brief from the Electronic Frontier Foundation was sort of, I guess she derided it and said that they were hysterical crybabies, which is not really, I don't
hysterical
think that a judge
crybabies?
Yeah, I don't think that a judge should really use terminology like that. The funny thing is that the FCC ISPs have been trying to get out of what's called the common carrier classification, so that they can do stuff with their network as they see fit. And the common carrier thing is the thing that protects them. And so this judge has probably looked at that and is not is saying, well, no, you can control what's on your network because you're doing it for television and the whole data television crossover, and you don't want to be classified under Title II, because Title II actually does give them the protections for that. So all the stuff that we've been talking about with Title II and how that was done a long time ago would be more affirmative protection than they have now for common carrier status. But because they want to be classified as a data service or an information service, then they're more responsible for the data that's on their wire. And that's what a judge is looking at. They're sort of looking at this and saying, oh, this is how this is. But I think the FCC will intervene, or somebody will step in and say, well, no, the ISPs probably are common carriers. If they don't, we're headed down a very bad road in America that will probably result in us having to get a VPN connection for just day-to-day tasks, or to use Tor for day-to-day tasks, or something crazy like that, because I can't imagine an ISP looking at this and saying, oh crap, we're liable for everything, let's lock the entire internet down, because
that's what they'll
it's
do.
Oh, Google image search, oh, you can abuse copyright with that, let's lock that down too. I mean, they would just use it it would be really bad. I mean, they'll just go nuts.
This is basically the first brick in the house that could build the internet as AOL used to be, if that makes any sense. That was a cumbersome sentence, but you guys get the idea. A very curated internet experience, almost like a TV package. Like, okay, well, here's the websites you get. And this kind of thing's been talked about here and there, and we talked about the possibility of this thing in the UK with their internet blacklist and whitelist program. And if we continue to do this kind of thing, the different ISPs may want to go into that sort of a direction, because they're not going to have the man hours, they're not going to have the money or the resources to be able to police all the traffic that's on there. They'll just be able to say, all right, well, everything's restricted except for these 5 things. That's all you can do. And even Facebook's questionable because they don't give us enough money. I don't think it'll turn into that, but, first step
I just
down
think
that,
it's funny
that path.
ISPs want to have it both ways. They want to be common carriers in situations like this, but otherwise they don't want to be common carriers because their business models and things like there are vertical revenue streams here, guys. We could do all this cool stuff if we could only just deep inspect packets and profile people and insert permanent cookies that you can't delete. And I'm of course now talking about Verizon because they've been caught doing that. So there's those things.
I guess while we're on this, let's go ahead and let's stay on this topic for a minute. We've got an article here about the FCC and then one about Comcast raising rates. Why is that news anymore? I don't know. People like to be outraged, I guess.
What's funny is they're raising the rates. They actually lowered HBO to be in line with what HBO Go costs, because
right.
I guess. But they raised all the rates that the FCC fined them, there's all these like public utilities fees. There's all these little fees they collect. Historically, the FCC collected these fees from ISPs on a per subscriber basis to fund things like universal access and the rural service fund, which, if you've got a house out in BFE and you're 50 miles from the next house, it's going to cost an exorbitant amount of money to wire your house for cable television and telephone. But the FCC, the power, way back a long time ago in the 1940s, smart people looked at that and said, if we get people in the city where it doesn't really cost a lot, if everybody pays the same, then we can use the extra money left over from people in the city that paid too much to pay for the connections of people in the country that didn't pay enough. So depending on if you're a rural living or a city living, it doesn't matter. It's universal access. There's where the name came from. And more recently, these ISPs and providers have argued that, everything's already wired. We don't need to do that. And the FCC is like, okay, well, I guess whatever. Or we're managing our own network and it's so cheap now we can just do it. And so the FCC said, okay, but those fees never stopped. Like, they still continue to collect those fees. They just are supposed to be using them to upgrade their network. That was actually part of the whole 96 Telecommunications Act. It was nothing really super shady about it. It was, we're going to collect these fees. We're going to run fiber everywhere on our own. We really, this is crazy, FCC. We're giving you money and then you give us money back so that we can run fiber. Why don't we just run it ourselves? And the FCC was like, that sounds like a good idea. And then, of course, now we don't have fiber anywhere. They basically took the money and ran. Those fees are still there. They're not being used for anything. And I don't know if, did we actually have the story, but Congress is actually upset that the FCC has not actually collected any of the fines they've leveled for these kinds of things. So that's the next thing, and the next chapter in the story is Congress is like, wait a minute, FCC, didn't you guys fine a whole bunch of people a bunch of money? And they're just like, nope.
Yeah, but the fines aren't fully assessed until after a long investigation, and then even after that, it's not up to the FCC. It's up to like the Department of Justice to go and collect those fines. So some of these investigations could take years, and maybe once the Department of Justice gets it, it'll be up to their discretion to collect it. If they decide they should collect it, they could look at it and be like, whatever, that was several years ago, and the markets are fine. I'm a big person in a suit downtown Washington.
But of course, because money's involved, Congress is like, hey, money, that's ours. We need that. Give that here.
Unless a lobbyist shows up at their office and says, like, listen, I'll give you directly a few $100,000 to your campaign if we can maybe not worry about the several $1 million fine that's been assessed against AT&T. What do you think? Like, ski lodge where? Naked people? Yes, sounds great. So that's how that works. That's how government works, children. Yeah. Anyway, all right, so let's move on from these two stories here and talk about, okay, guys, get your pitchforks ready, head over to the forum and get ready to post your topic. I'm going to talk about Tor for a minute, and you guys can jump over there, talk about how dumb I am for not knowing anything about Tor. So this is another interesting thing in the Tor saga. I'm all for encryption, and I'm all for interesting ways to keep yourself safe and secure on the internet. I still don't think Tor is the perfect solution. Maybe after a few more iterations or whatever. But that brings me to this. Let's follow the money that's going into Tor. Tor gets a lot of different donations, but a lot of those donations, well, look where they're coming from here. They're coming from the government, How about that? So they're coming from the U.S. Department of State. I mean, highlighted here. Some are coming from Reddit, which is nice. The National Science Foundation, Radio Free Asia. There's all these, like, you could get this list of major backers here and take a look at it. But the one that's troubling is the U.S. Department of State, one of the major backers in Tor. The U.S. Department of State. What? Why? If they're one of the major
got to be able
backers,
to communicate securely too.
But they're trying to dismantle the damn thing, aren't they? I mean, the government's always trying to dismantle it. They're always trying to. What could they possibly be doing? Are they trying to buy their way into having a backdoor? Are they trying to guarantee that they're going to have, methods to jump in and what are they doing with that money? It's like it's not free money. Like when the U.S. Department of State gives you that much money, it's not like, here, this is a good faith donation of a few $1 million. We really enjoy your work and your product, and we believe in what you guys are doing. It's good for the world. That's not what they're saying. So that troubles me a bit. I find it disturbing.
Well, it's also true that the government is not one person, and so they're operating with sort of different goals and different agendas. And some people are scared to death of encryption, and other people, theoretically, that have, spies and diplomats abroad know what's up and are maybe not quite as obtuse.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I don't know how to feel about this. It doesn't make me feel good about it. Even regardless if it's somebody who's a good guy. And I know that years ago they were all for encryption. Keep yourself safe, and now they've a lot of people in the government have kind of gone the other direction. They're like, hey, encryption is bad. Even Hillary Clinton, it's very much like, we need to get rid of this encryption crap, or not. That's not verbatim what she said. She wants to make sure that the government has backdoors and all that stuff because dangerous criminals and all that kind of crap. I don't know. Speaking of stuff that's dangerous, you want to talk about Microsoft Windows 10 for a minute?
Windows 10, the spyware that just keeps on giving.
Yeah, and it keeps on coming back. So before there was a service running. This is about the spying nonsense. The service used to be called Diagnostics Tracking Service, and you could go into your services and see it running there. And that was doing a lot of the telemetry nonsense, phoning home to Microsoft saying, "Here's what this person's been doing." Even though and even if you turned off all the stuff in your options, they were still going to send some basic data back to Microsoft about how you use your machine, because Microsoft needs to know if something goes wrong with their software, so that they can fix it. That's how they spun that nonsense. Anyway, now, even if you've gone in and manually turned all that stuff off and used some of the different programs that are out there or whatever, gone into your registry and edited keys, some of the latest Windows updates have removed all that nonsense. They've gone back and, I guess, reverted everything back to the original, and they very sneakily changed the name to something more innocuous. What kind of word is that? Innocuous, called the Connected User Experiences. Connected User Experiences and Telemetry Service, to be exact. So now you're going to need to go in, services.msc, just, push the Windows key or the super key R. I guess it's the Windows key if you're in Windows. And that'll bring up the run command dialog box, and type services.msc and look for the diagnostic tracking service. And you can disable that and make sure that it's not set to start with your computer. Also, there's some new tools that are coming out that you can mess around with it. But I don't know. This is kind of heinous, in my opinion. We went through the trouble of going and turning off the telemetry nonsense, and the fact that Microsoft would push an update that undoes what I already did really kind of makes me mad.
It's funny, the full story on this, actually, I think Barnacle was the first person to report this. And they were like, no, it totally doesn't do that. And he's like, no, it totally does. And the reason it does that is because they renamed it. Like, the whole reason the preferences are reset is because your preferences to not spy are totally there. But under the Diagnostics Tracking Service, under the new name, it's a different set of keys or a different set of preferences.
Right.
And it was so bad that they actually, there's a service that runs in the background where, like, if you got the Microsoft Surface Book, or you need to download like re-imaging or whatever, there's an ISO that's built, and they made that mistake with the ISO, and they pulled it for a while to where you couldn't get it until they could get it fixed. Then they put it back. So there's the first version of Threshold 2 has this issue. Supposedly the version of Threshold 2 that is out now, that is being pushed now, fixes the issue so that your preferences are copied from the old name to the new name. But I have not verified that myself personally. I've only got a handful of Windows 10 machines, the test bench machines and some other stuff. And on every single one of them, as recently as yesterday, it was still resetting the preferences. But they say that it's fixed. but I don't know that it's fixed. But who's to say that they're not going to change it after the fact? I mean, you don't control your machine anymore, and this is really, really irritating.
This kind of reminds me of the way that, routers have gone over the years. We've built a router or we've had a router, and nowadays you get a router from your ISP and they live inside your router and they just hang out in there, and they're always connected, and there's always a backdoor and all that kind of crap for them to get in. And I feel like Microsoft is wanting to do that with their operating system, just have a way for them to always get in and do stuff if they need to, or
We can sell all that data.
so much data. SpyBot has released a pretty interesting little program called Anti-Beacon. And I do like SpyBot. There's a pretty good anti-malware, anti-spyware tool. Anti-Beacon is, I haven't used it yet. I haven't downloaded, but it looks very easy to use, and it'll go in and allow you to turn off a lot of this telemetry nonsense that's running in the background. This looks very similar to the stuff that I was recommending in the video that I'd made about locking down Windows 10. Possibly doesn't cover everything, but it looks like it might be a very simple, easy to use program that'll allow you to turn off most, if not all, of the junk. So grab that, and then I would recommend going over and watching the video, because I'll show you guys how to do stuff like, completely remove stuff, like remove the OneDrive and remove the search bar from the bottom, remove all the default apps that are installed using your PowerShell and all that kind of nonsense. So yeah, it's I guess these programs are going to have to stay one step behind. You can't stay one step ahead, because Microsoft's going to release another update, and then SpyBot Anti-Beacon's going to roll out a patch and say like, oh, they made an update that's going to do all this garbage, so let's fix it up and do that. So that's what we're going to have to do. You're going to have to keep updating our software or move to Linux. That's another option as well. If you guys are on Linux, how you doing? Hope it's fun over there. Yeah.
Linux does 90% of the stuff that I need anymore. It actually works really well. And I love that. I mean, my preferences on Linux, I don't even bother customizing Windows all that much a lot of the time, just because it's kind of a pain to move things around. I mean, I've got app data, but on Linux, it's just so much easier to move my preferences around from system to system that it doesn't work that way on Windows. It does a little bit. Since Windows 2000, there are certain things that are easier to move around, but there's a lot of stuff that's not.
Yeah, I find it's almost easier on Windows to have a very basic setup and then just redo it manually every time you reinstall. It's kind of, I keep a little Nanite, or was that what it's called? Yeah, Nanite.com, whatever. Keep a little file of that, an exe of that with all the crap I want, and just a few exes. I have like a folder of junk that I install every time I reinstall Windows and throw up a background, and then I'm done. And then my user preferences and stuff, my documents, I just keep a backup folder of all that and then throw it back where it goes. And it's kind of a ghetto way to do it, but it's probably easier than using some of the tools out there. Anyway, no, there's a fly. Go away. This fly's trying to get my bourbon. Bastard. He'll be drunk. Can you imagine? Fly and bourbon? That would probably be a headache. All right, let's talk about the store and all that cool stuff for just a minute. First off, thanks for picking up Zweihänder. If you guys don't have it, I promise it's good. I made it myself out of all these chiptune sounds and drums and stuff. So yeah, the music that you hear at the beginning of the videos and that sort of stuff, it's Zweihänder. And I'm using 100% of the, I'd say, yeah, it's probably about 100% of the profit right now. I wasn't planning on using 100, but we've got an Unreal Engine guy, and we're making a video game from the soundtrack. And it's going to be a compelling video game, damn it. So your support for that helps support indie developers. Not just me, but you're keeping a couple of developers employed. So cool. And we got all kinds of stuff on the store. The new December design of the month is Krampus versus Santa Claus. And we've put that one on sale right now because we want to make sure that you guys can get it before the end of the year. So if you're out of the country, be sure you order it before the 3rd, because we print these on the 3rd and we print them on the 15th. Most people in the USA will be able to get them if they order before the 15th. But if you live anywhere else in the world, order it before the 3rd if you want to get it by the holidays. So there's that. And then we got a whole bunch of new cool things in there. Stainless steel mugs, those are my favorite, with a carabiner. People have been asking for shot glasses. I did one better. These are the 3-ounce Lexington Jigger, so they're like the size of 2 shots, you know. Got some glass mugs, got some patches. People have been asking for all this stuff. You guys ask for stuff, we get it. We are. I did not understand how much people wanted hats and desk mats. We're sold out of all that stuff. We'll get some more hats and some more desk mats very soon. We also did some long sleeve shirts for this time of year. So keep telling us what you want, and I'll keep throwing it on there, guys. And thanks for supporting. That's keeping us alive. Support as much as you possibly can because we have to move very soon. Like seriously, just go on there and buy. Does anybody out there have 50 grand I can borrow for a down payment on a place? Because we'll talk. I'm not joking. I'm serious. If anybody out there wants to support us, I'll pay you back. We'll make it a loan, and it'll be cool. But I'm so sick of going to temp spot after temp spot and living in the basement. It so kills your morale and your productivity. Anybody got 50 grand I can borrow? I'll pay you back. I won't just keep it like other people would. All right, let's move on here. Some hardware stuff. Really flat, thin touchscreen devices. So, I've forgotten everything about this already. So it's a UK-based. Was it a BODL? Is that Boodle or Bottle? Bottle, I suppose. Bottle Technologies. It's a new type of display panel, and it's thin and see-through, and you can it's touch sensitive, and it could be really low power. That's pretty interesting. They're saying that we could see smartwatches in the future that will last way longer than the smartwatches of today. Large displays, small displays. But this article is really, really devoid on details of how it works. If it's like, type of... It doesn't really say what type of display it is. It's just an article about this could be the future. We have no idea what it is. No, I don't know. Do you see any
details? It seems to hint that it's some kind of like e-ink type technology, but color? I don't know. I was reading the description of the LCD, and it's like, oh, this would be the holy grail for low power and that kind of thing. I was remembering, you guys remember the old Sidekick phones? It was a thing that ran Java. It was, the Sidekick was the name of the phone and the company. It was really a genius device for the time. But it had a color screen that was reflective. It had a backlight, but it would also be reflective in sunlight and bright light. And yeah, the color wasn't great on it, but it was okay. And if I had a phone like that did all the stuff that the Sidekick did, as well as the Sidekick did it had like built-in instant messaging as well as text messaging, and the email support in it was actually very good for the device of the day. If there was a device like that had a battery life of like 40 hours, I would be all over that. That would be amazing. I would totally love to have that. Yeah, the color screen isn't as high fidelity, but I don't care. It's good enough.
Yeah, well, they're actually saying that it is very high fidelity, and one of the interesting things about this technology and the way it works is that they've actually gotten it to refresh rates that are usable. Before, they've had some similar things like this, but the refresh rates weren't high enough to be actually usable on a device. But good resolution, good color. You know what? There's no more details. That's all we can really say about it. So let's move on and talk about the next thing on the list, which is Li-Fi. Another technology of the future, but they're already testing this out. And scientists in a lab this year were able to achieve 224 gigabits per second. That's ridiculous. But in practical application, they're playing around with this stuff in Estonia. They're saying that they can get 1 gigabyte per second. 1 gigabyte per second. So not 1 gigabit, 1 gigabit, unless it's a typo. Like the capital GB is gigabyte, as far as I'm concerned. Now, here's the way this works. The technology, we've talked about this before, but it's essentially lights that flicker. They flicker. It's like Morse code, but it's really, really fast. And it's able to transmit binary stuff around. And it flickers extremely fast. So fast that our eyes can't tell. But I wonder if we had like a super slow-mo camera, one of those crazy slow-mo cameras. I wonder if we could like videotape a room full of people, and then you realize that all these people are sitting in an office, but it's actually a rave. So Li-Fi is the rave of the future. It's the rave you can't see. It's the rave that brings the data to you and me. I just made their marketing jingle right there.
I missed out on an opportunity to like play the bongos in the background or something. We could do that. It'd be like all Shatner-esque. It'd be like one of those poetry readings, those spoken word poetry readings. It'd be great.
I'll turn the echo on. Yeah, we'll go crazy. Just get my echo on my thing. Wi-Fi, technology, G. Then we'll have like, I'll be riding a pony and stuff. I'd probably break that poor thing's back. I'll ride a giant pony. Would that be a horse?
You'll ride a giant pony. Look at my horse. My horse is amazing. Is that where you're going? Because that's really
where I'm going, outer space. Listen, I want a giant pony, not a horse. I want like an 8-foot tall pony. Do they make those? They might make those. China will figure it out. They're cloning everything. Maybe they'll make a giant pony. Anyway, Li-Fi. The weird thing about Li-Fi is it has to be in line of sight. So if you have a device and you put it under your desk, well, the Li-Fi can't get to it. So, yeah. I guess it'll be good in offices where you have like, a computer on the desk and a thing on the wall and just the lights flickering can communicate with everything. I'm not sure if it'll work so much for phones and stuff, but they're showing like a PDA. Who still uses PDA? This must be from the freaking the late 90s. PDA, like it says right here, like, oh, he's got a computer internet access on the picture here, and everyone is carrying around a PDA. Do they still call it that in other countries? In Estonia, do you guys still use PDAs, or is it just a phone now? I don't know. Yeah, that's silly. Let's move on then. Hey, this is fun. Do you guys remember the Superfish? I'm not talking about that Marvel superhero that failed. I'm talking about the Lenovo Superfish that was sort of a kind of a rootkit, I guess, certificate that was installed. Well, Dell's got their own now. What do you think about this, Wendell? This is crazy. We got Dell installing root stuff. So yeah, it's another tracking thing. It's just watching what you do. Why is everything tracking you?
It's just a certificate. It's the certificate. Okay, so you got to understand, from Dell's point of view, they're saying we have to pay some other company to sign our software, like VeriSign or Thauté or somebody like that, to sign our software and sign all of our stuff. If we install our own root certificate, then software that we sign will be trusted by our machines, which on the face of it doesn't seem entirely unreasonable. But then you bolt on other stuff to that where it's like, we could have user experience improvement telemetry, and we could do man-in-the-middle attacks where we sign a certificate for Google. And so when you go to Google, it's not actually going to Google, it's going to our website, and then we forward that on to Google. But then we can see everything that people are doing. And so the temptation for abuse there, I think, is too great. And even if they're not abusing it right now, at some point they will be abusing it in the future. Probably Thauté and VeriSign have abused it as well. Well, actually, Google had that auditing report where they asked VeriSign to figure out if they had issued certificates against any Google domains. And they, in fact, had. And their internal audit process was so bad that it pissed off Google to the point where they were like, look, we're just going to send out our own staff, and we will buy your company, pretty much is how pissed off they were, if you don't give us the data. Like, we're just going to buy you out and get what we need. But I think they ended up getting a legal order, a legal injunction or something, because they were so badly handling did you give Google certificates to somebody other than Google? Because we need to know if you did. So it's kind of like that. It's just a certificate authority. It's like, it's a chain of trust. When you really look into SSL and how this whole thing works, the whole thing is a house of cards. It really is. It's like, because, why do those people have the trust? And how did they end up with it? And do they, delegate that trust effectively? Can we trust them to actually not do bad things? Can we trust them to not be in bed with intelligence agencies? Can we not trust them to not be in bed with any kind of, fascist element that there might exist in order to do whatever? And I don't know the answers to those questions are all above board, which is the scary part.
Dell has, I guess, another thing to their credit, they have said, hey, we've got a tool or not a tool, they have the steps. They've published the steps for how to remove this stuff, because even if you try to remove the certificate, there's a DLL file that's going to keep reinstalling the certificate. So you have to go in and remove that too. It doesn't sound like a terribly difficult process, but for someone who has no idea what they're doing, it's just going to be there doing whatever. And this kind of thing could also leave you open to man-in-the-middle attacks from third parties. So that's another negative part of it. And it's just crazy to me how bent a lot of these companies, see, it's the damn whiskey talking, how bent a lot of these companies are on getting in the middle of all of our stuff. And we've seen it all over the place. We see it with all of our TVs now, all of our devices. They all want to know what we're doing. It's no longer about, hey, let's make a really cool device and sell it and make our profit. It's like, yeah, let's make a device that people want, and let's make a bunch of services that they want, and then let's watch everything they do and make our money from that. So it's just a huge shift, and we've seen it in the last 10 years toward, collecting data. And that seems to be one of the biggest driving things in the market. The more they know, the more they can make off of you. It's smart, but damn, that's where we're going. So look at it now, and then look at the future and realize that's where we're going, And then, you can start to make a few plans here and there. Make plans with like your home automation systems and stuff. Do them yourself instead of buying a third-party thing. And by the way, when we move, maybe we should do some home automation. Especially since Kane is here now. Maybe we'll have to fly you out there too. That'd be kind of fun. Some home automation stuff. Anyway, so if you guys want to see that article, the Dell article is here, or the article on how to remove that if you have one of the Dell products. The Dell? What is wrong with me? If you have one of the Dell products that's affected, go ahead and take a look at this, somewhat elaborate removal process. All right, next on the list. This is kind of hardware, kind of science. Some researchers have discovered some ultra-thin diamond nanothreads, and it was another one of those discoveries. This is my favorite. Like, not most, but a lot of discoveries are made not with Eureka, we've found it. They're just, most discoveries are heralded by, that's funny. So this is another case of, well, that's funny. But where's the actual, where is it? Yeah. They were taking benzene molecules, and they weren't expecting for this to happen. They were, they were adding something to them. It's up here. I see this is part that we would normally cut out because I've forgotten everything. Anyway, after manipulating them a little bit, they were like, whoa, it turned into a very nice lattice of carbon. Sort of like a very, very thin, 20 times thinner than a human hair layer of diamond, which is going to be really strong. And they're saying this is the type of material that could be really strong, really lightweight. And then, of course, the article takes it the next step farther and says, this is what we will build the space elevator, because that will make people click on the article. But it can be used for a lot of other things, too. Maybe. This with the coat of, I don't know. This could be the next carbon nanotubes as well, but I doubt it. It's not quite the same. The space elevator. You think we should build one of those things? Or, I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Space elevator yesterday.
Yeah.
We need a space elevator to the moon. Oh, wait. It'll be like, the garrote wire that you see the guy's got in his watch and he chokes somebody. It's like the space elevator cable will get caught on the moon, and then all of a sudden it, shears the earth in half or something.
That's one strong cable. Yeah. That'd be great advertising for whoever made the cable. So strong it cut the earth in half. Then we can have two earths. We can have one earth for like the people who want to kill each other, and then one earth for everyone who wants to make progress and do science things. That'd be kind of cool. Let's put all the murderers and bombers and warmongers on one planet, one half of the planet.
Hey, that worked for Georgia.
Then they'd probably blow us up, though. That's the problem. They'd probably get bored. They'd be like, we've been blowing each other up for 10 years. What about those damn scientists on the other chunk of rock that's floating over there? What are they up to? We should blow them up. That's what'll happen. Getting sick of bombing Ohio over here. Let's bomb whatever is on the other half. I don't know. What would be the other side of the world? Tajikistan? Ohio? What would it be? What's directly around the world from Ohio? I'm guessing it's something Stan. Or Stan. It would be Stan.
It's right around Taiwan, actually.
What would it be? If you go straight through the earth, Ohio is Taiwan.
It's if it's a straight line, that's like the longest line possible. I mean, depending on how you go through the sphere, you're going to end up in a different spot. But
this tangent brought to you by bourbon.
It is actually a tangent. I mean, but not really. But it is kind of. But not really, because it's not perpendicular. But
oh god, that was almost a double entendre, but it wasn't.
It's perpendicular to a tangent. How about that?
Yes. The reciprocal of the tangent? That's not even a thing. You can't even do that in math, can you?
I'll go you one better and say it's perpendicular to two parallel tangents, which on a sphere. So that's.
Yes. I hope you guys like the show because I hate it. It's awful. I wouldn't watch this. It's terrible.
This is all the stuff that normally gets cut that you guys don't see because it's just like, what is wrong with it? It's like, I haven't even had any alcohol tonight, so I don't even know what's wrong.
It's all your fault watching because it's not my fault. And even though it probably is my fault, it's your fault. Because I don't take blame for anything.
I'm losing my voice too, so it's just kind of like, I'm getting the smoker voice. It's like, hello, Carl, how's it going? Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought you were about to say biscuits and mustard.
Biscuits and mustard, French fried potatoes.
All right, Raspberry Pi Zero. This is ridiculous because this device is tiny and it's $5. I can't believe what they crammed onto the Raspberry Pi Zero for $5. And they also made a little note that they are not going to do anything cheaper than this. It's got a single core, 1 gigahertz ARM 11 processor, but it's 40% faster than the original Raspberry Pi. It also has 512 megabytes of memory and a few different ports on there. So if it's got SD card, looks like you got a spot to hook up your mouse and keyboard or whatever. That's really impressive. It even comes with an embedded version of their own OS. What's the OS that they use with the Raspberry Pi? Raspbian, yeah. All that. That's crazy.
I like that it's 512 megs of memory. I like that it's $5. Honestly, we'll probably start seeing these in like kiosk type computers and some other stuff like that. It's interesting because they originally were planning a $50 Raspberry Pi, and they met with one of the Google guys, Sergey Brin, I think, and he's like, no, just go cheaper. You need to go as cheap as you possibly can. And the quote from the guy, Ibn Upton, I think is his name, and the quote from him was, well, I'm not expecting to lose money on the $5 Raspberry Pi, so I'd say the production cost is around $4, $4.50, something like that. But still, that's a really, really impressive price point for as much functionality as you get there. I mean, there's a lot of horsepower there for what you get for $5.
I want to buy a bunch of them. I don't even know what I want to do with them. I just really want to buy a bunch. I'll figure something out. You think these would be good for a home automation or something? I don't know.
If you were Microsoft and you were looking at this, it would be like, oh my God, Linux has already won the Internet of Things. Linux will run in 32 megabytes, pretty much no problem.
Yeah.
Well, that's not completely true. You got to cut it way down, but you can do it. It can be done. And
very slim version.
Yeah, and so the Internet of Things, Linux has already completely taken over the universe. It's like, I want to run Windows in the Internet of Things. Why? Why do you want to do that? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
do you want it to pretty much be do you want it to be either a really expensive big client, or do you want to just waste completely all of your RAM on the OS instead of what it's supposed to be doing? It makes no sense.
It's sold out already, but if you find a place that carries the Raspberry Pi magazine, it's bundled with the Raspberry Pi magazine. The $5 Raspberry Pi went out with every issue of this month's Raspberry Pi magazine. So if you have somewhere that carries that magazine, there's a Raspberry Pi that came with the magazine, so you can get it that way.
That's pretty awesome. I wonder if I can still get that myself. It's drink time.
Good. Excellent.
128 gigabyte DDR4 DIMMs. How about some of that? Samsung's making those. They should be out some time in the future because that's when everything comes out. But yeah, there they are. I thought ADATA was making 128 gigabyte DIMMs as well, but I don't think they were in the same form factor, and they were also stacked memory, so that was a little bit different than this. But Samsung has crammed so much RAM onto that DIMM. Can you imagine the server? They actually already have imagined a server. One of the servers with 96 DIMM slots, 12.2 terabytes of RAM.
That's crazy. The most memory that I've worked on that was a single system that wasn't part of a NUMA cluster. It's just good old dual socket system was 512 gigabytes of RAM in one machine, and that was pretty beastly, I thought.
Back when the NUMA video first came out, it took a NUMA cluster to run the damn thing. It was getting so many hits. I want to know the price on this thing because 12.2 terabytes, yeah, that sounds really impressive. How much would it cost? Like, how much is each DIMM? I'm too much of a dimwit to know the answer to that. It doesn't say how much it is. So $900 a DIMM. Somebody math right now? Someone in the comments, because we're doing this live. Someone can math right now. Math is a verb. Please, math. It's also a name. Mathazar is a good name. I like that name for a cat, not a person. I don't know. If you have a cat, name it Mathazar. Someone will do that. All right, let's talk about this cloning factory in China. There's a lot of cloning factories out there, but China's building the biggest cloning factory. They're going to be cloning pretty much all sorts of animals, everything from primates to pets. If you give them like a small skin sample of your pet, that's gonna be fun. Like, listen, you're about to die, Fido, and we want to get another Fido to pretend that you never actually died because we're sociopaths. So we're just gonna take a little clip of your skin here and send it to China, and pay $100 grand.
One question. And that is, are these guys on the New York Stock Exchange? Because I want to invest. These are the guys that are going to bring us Syntacow.
You're totally right. And one of the main things that they're going to be doing with their research is they're going to be trying to make cheaper meat, cheaper, I guess, for consumption, like cheaper beef and that sort of thing. So they're also trying to, revolutionize the animal husbandry industry. That could be interesting, and I don't really have any feelings, towards this as far as the morals that go into it. I figured China would be doing this kind of stuff before anybody else, mainly because, if this sort of stuff happens in America, you'll have a whole bunch of people, mostly wearing funny hats, show up because God wants you to wear a hat, and they'll all be like, we have a weird feeling about this. It doesn't sit right with us. We need to pray about this for a few days and then figure out if it's the right thing to do. So I don't have any feelings in that way. I wonder if there's any scientific implications. Could re-cloning the same beast several times over, I don't know, mess with it in any way? It should be a perfect copy, so it should be fine to eat, right? I mean, do you foresee any strange issues with this, Wendell?
Well, if you are making a copy of a copy of a copy, of course it's going to end badly. But I think that they're probably going to have like a master cow, and then they'll load the master cow file, and the master cow file in the sequencer machine will produce other, slave cows or no, I guess master slave is not acceptable terminology anymore. I don't even know what the correct terminology is, but
depends on what circle you're into, depends on what circle. I think Kane's okay with that.
But you end up with a situation where, you've got the one, and so it's just, you're making multiple copies of the one. It's not like an analog. I mean, it is kind of an analog medium, so it's not like you've taken a record that you've recorded onto tape, and then you're recording that tape onto another tape, and then you record that tape onto another tape. I mean, every time you copy it, it's going to end badly. I think there was a terrible movie about this, Multiplicity, and these things were happening in the movie, and it was like they got dumber with every generation. It would be like that, except instead of dumber, it would be like more like cancer. Now, the thing that's on my mind is, will PETA be on board with this? And if so, can we direct their energies and efforts toward that? It's like, it's like, okay, we're going to have meat, but it's going to be this artificially lab-grown meat. Are you on board with that? It's like going to be the most horrible, grotesque, lab apparatus where they're like carving. It's just like a sausage log almost, except instead of, it's like they're growing the sausage. They're not actually manufacturing the sausage in the normal way. And so will PETA be okay with that? Can we get PETA employed where they're actually, like carving the thing off the sausage? And it's like, oh no, this is humane sausage. It's like, okay,
yeah,
sounds good.
Looking at some of those advertisements that PETA does with all the nude celebrities, I think they would be all for growing the sausage. Let's just move along. In that case, you know what I want them to bring back in China? I want them to do. Yeah, it's cool. They're making copies of things that exist on the Earth right now. Give us a white rhino, dude. Like, start making those. Can you do that? That would be amazing. There's like 3 white rhinos left. The male is too old to procreate. The females, there's 2 of them left. Could we clone that? Maybe a woolly mammoth. That'd be fun. I would love to ride around on a woolly mammoth. Screw that man on a buffalo song. I want to be like freaking Logan on a woolly mammoth. Make a t-shirt, design somebody. I'll pay you $100 Tuesday. Yeah, be great. The other thing, I would love to see an aurochs. Those things were hunted to extinction. But I would love to see an aurochs back in the wild. I wonder what that would do to the Bavarian and Swiss countryside, where I believe that they were, common.
It's funny.
I'd like
the
to see some of
YouTube
those
chat
animals
says
come
that
back.
I'm in front of a green screen, so I want to mess with them. This.
I think you're in front of a green screen?
Yeah, in front of a green screen. Let's see if I can do this correctly here.
Mm-hmm. Is it working?
Oh,
What happened?
okay. I've got a expansion slot cover. Yeah, I win. What do I win? I don't know. A bunch of dumbasses in the YouTube chat. This is why we don't pay attention to the YouTube chat, by the way, guys. Just so you know.
guys are. Hey, we love you. Hey, we love you guys. Hey. Come on. Go comment on our website later though, because that's where we actually look. There's going to be it's a tidal wave of swill, and every once in a while there's a diamond ring somewhere in there. So that's the YouTube comments. If you want to dig through that tidal wave of swill and see if you can find the diamond ring, go ahead and do it. But the problem is it's constantly moving, just like a tidal wave. It's not a pool. It's not a cesspool. I used to think that YouTube comments were a cesspool, but YouTube comments are always moving. They're like a tidal wave. Like a tidal wave.
A tidal wave of shit.
Well, I was going to say swill, but shit works as well. Anyway, let's move on and talk about Russia. Speaking of shit, let's talk about Russia and Europe. Oh, God, everyone in Russia and Europe loves us, right?
No, God, no. Bunch of dumbasses on YouTube is what they say to themselves every week. I mean, it's just...
And they keep watching because people love to be outraged. And hatred is a powerful emotion. I watch this because I hate it. That's what people do. Have you ever found yourself listening to talk radio that you hate just because you love disagreeing with them? You're like, those idiots. Oh, can you believe that idiot thinks this way? That's us to you, right? Right? All right. Anyway, Russia and Europe, they want to go to the moon and make a colony because we're really focused on Mars. NASA's focused on Mars. Elon Musk is focused on Mars. Everyone's Mars. We've already been to the moon. It's old news. We're American. We stuck a flag on the damn thing, if you believe it. If you believe some guy who lives in a trailer in the middle of New Mexico with 1 million cats, then no, we didn't go to the moon. I'm going to believe NASA. Anyway, that's the man.
I've seen the shadows. Man. The shadows bend a weird way. It can't. It was a thing.
Yeah, shadows in the earth never do that. Ooh. Anyway, where was I? So, Russia, they want to go make a colony on the moon. So they're up there looking around on the pole because there's ice on the pole and that sort of thing, and they're saying, we need to go make a thing on the moon because we got the International Space Station and all that. So we need to go to the moon. But Russia actually said, hey, we want to go up there and build a colony, and it's going to be freaking expensive, and it's the moon. It's way over there, and it's totally different. It's not like building a house in, it's kind of like North Dakota, but not like Kansas, like North Dakota. So the moon is similar to North Dakota, or maybe somewhere north, like, I don't know, something inhospitable. So Europe, the EU, was like, hey, we'll do it, man. It'd be cool. We'll all get together and work on this. And China's also thinking about going up there and doing some things too. So in the next 20 years or so, they say by 2020 they're going to send out some rovers and that sort of thing to check it out, look around. But they're focusing more on the moon as the next base instead of Mars as the next base. And that might be a smart first step because it's a lot closer to home, and instead of going all the way to Mars. So we probably should have had a moon base already.
Yeah, the bad thing about the moon is that because there hasn't been wind, the dust on the moon is insanely abrasive. That was one of the things that they didn't really expect to encounter on the moon landing. But yeah, any kind of moving parts or moving anything is going to get worn excessively. And it's probably going to be really bad for humans because breathing in that kind of a sharp dust, it's going to be difficult for the mechanisms in our body that's designed for when we breathe in dust to deal with that kind of thing. And so I think that part will be bad. I do think that getting to the moon before we get to Mars makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. And I think that because of radiation and a whole bunch of other things, we'll probably be living in underground lava tubes on the moon. I think that's the best strategy for living on the moon with the least resources and the most likely to work. But the dust is going to be a huge problem.
This is from the YouTube chat here. The dust on Windows' ass is abrasive.
Well, there you go.
Yes, that's 100% factual evidence from the wonderful YouTube comment system. All right, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Turn the lemons into explosive lemons. You guys are just going to have to deal.
Get that in your eye, why don't you? Neil deGrasse Tyson has something to say about SpaceX. SpaceX, we report on those guys a lot because Elon Musk is groovy and all that. But he's saying that it's a delusion that SpaceX is going to lead the space frontier. And he's specifically talking about, SpaceX's trip to Mars or, Elon Musk's desire to, start a colony there because we need to be an interplanetary species as quickly as possible. So I think this is actually really hilarious here because he said that you're going to need a lot of money to go to Mars, and you're going to have to pitch some, people with money, some businesses, banks, capitalists, and that sort of thing. And it's going to be sort of like sitting down. I'll read this because it's hilarious. And like, hey, I've got an idea. I want to put the first humans on Mars. And they'll say, well, how much is that going to cost? Oh, it's going to cost a lot. Yeah. Well, okay, it's going to cost a lot. Well, is it dangerous? Oh, yeah, people are going to die. Yeah, it's very dangerous. A lot of people are going to die. Okay, well, what's the return on investment? Probably nothing. So that's the pitch that he's going to have to go through right there. And it'll be a really quick meeting. And that's probably how it's going to go. So he's going to have to rely upon government funding. A lot of that goes to NASA, so he's not going to get as much of it. But when you're doing something like this, it's really the government who's going to be the one behind it, saying, like, we need to do this as a nation, as a species. I'm channeling JFK in a fucking weird way. I don't even know. We need to get out there and do this. So it's not going to be SpaceX, probably.
See, I don't. There've been, like, Elon Musk, I think, was very upset by this type of comment, if not this comment specifically.
Yeah, but this time it's from Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes,
normally it's been from other people, but now it's from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's known as an authority on space, and he's got all kinds of clout.
I don't know. This is really. I really would like to learn more about the historical context of when we went to the moon the first time, because I'm pretty sure that even though NASA was in charge and NASA had a bunch of money to spend, that the situation was that NASA was going to the Lockheed Martins of the world and saying, hey, we need to get there. How do we do this? And, the Dow Cornings of the world and the other companies like that. I don't see that SpaceX they would totally be interested in playing that kind of role if that's what's going on. It's just that they're not, NASA and the federal government is not spending the money the way that they were on the space program in the 60s. And so I really don't understand the concept, the what's going on with these comments, because, is it SpaceX versus Lockheed Martin? Is it SpaceX versus whatever? Or do these guys think that there's not enough academic involvement? Because, NASA did have a lot of academic involvement and university research and things like that. But there's also a lot of stuff that was handled by defense contractors as well. And so I would really like to know how this exactly played out in the 60s for the space program, and later in the 70s and 80s, and how this played out for the shuttle program, because there were a lot of contractors that handled a lot of stuff. And so are they just upset that SpaceX is not going through NASA and NASA academics, I guess, the academic layer, is that the real problem here, that the academic layer is missing? Because I'm pretty sure if you said that Musk would fix it, because Musk is just eccentric super genius that wants to go to space and have a good time, and I can respect that.
He also has a very good track record of people telling him that, hey, you can't do that, it's impossible, you can't do it, there's not enough money, and him just being like, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway, and you are off the team. Oh, and he's like, oh, okay. So he has a way of just plowing through negativity, and even people who work there have said, like, if I come to him and say it can't be done, he will fire me or move me to a different team and say, like, all right, well, you used to be the leader of this team. You're no longer the leader of this team. I am the leader of this team. And he will take over and run the project and be the point guy on that project, as well as many other things. I don't know how the man never does it. How does he sleep? Does he have a girlfriend? What does he do? Does he go out to eat? Well, I mean, how does he... I don't know how he does it. Like, really, I do not know how he does it. So, I don't know. He seems like he might be able to plow through this. And, I don't know. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson, though. So, I want to know what you guys think in the comments here about this. I do think they'll need plenty of money. But at the same time, even if there's risks, tons of money involved and all that sort of thing, a lot of companies might look at this and say, you know what? Being part of the first colony on Mars or part of the first mission to Mars or something like that, it's going to cost a lot, but it'll keep us around for many, many years. It's publicity. It's an enormous amount of publicity, global publicity, to have your name attached to something like that. So there could be a layer of prestige, a layer of publicity, and a layer of that sort of thing that maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson has not fully considered in this, and maybe companies would be willing to do that if they're slightly also altruistic, Who knows? Anyway, let's move on here. What's next on the list? Oh, Blue Origin. That's the company that's backed by the Dread Pirate Bezos, the He's probably making a lot of money today. That's the CEO of Amazon. So he's got his own company here. It's going out to space, and they did something that's a bit interesting. They actually sent a rocket up 100 kilometers, way up there. That's 329,839 feet, or 100.5 kilometers, up into space, and then it returned and landed perfectly the first time. Unlike the first few times that Elon Musk tried it, it went up and came back down and didn't work, SpaceX. So the idea of having a reusable rocket is really interesting and very attractive. You could use these. That's going to save them so much money when they're going up and back into space. So yeah, pretty impressive landing too. I was impressed. It was 4 feet off the mark, or a little bit over a meter if you're anywhere else in the world.
That's
pretty
really
impressive.
Really impressive piece of engineering. I mean, it really is.
I think it's pretty. Say what you will about the dread pirate Bezos, Jeff Bezos, but I think it's really interesting that he is also now getting into this game as well. So cool, very promising. Pretty soon they're gonna paint the moon with Amazon colors, and that's just what's gonna happen. I've decided. We're talking about outer space a lot. Why not? Let's just talk about what's going to happen to Mars in about 10 to 20 years. Phobos, the moon. Isn't
10 to 20 years. You can see it in your telescope right now. It's beginning to happen. No.
Yeah, Phobos is just shredding to pieces. It's just falling apart. And it's just 10 to 20 years. Okay. In 10 to 20 million years, Phobos is slowly falling toward Mars. Now, Phobos has lots of cracks and fissures. Is that the right word? Yeah. It's probably going to be pulled apart by the planet. Like, as it gets closer, the pull from Mars is going to rip little pieces of it off. And some of it will hit Mars, but more than likely it'll be pulled apart and turned into a ring. So Mars will have a nice ring. Does have a nice ring to it. So by the time we get there in 10 to 20 million years, if we haven't blown each other up, we'll be hanging out on Mars. We'll have it terraformed. 10 to 20 million years is probably enough time to terraform a planet. We'll probably look totally different. I mean, how are we going to look in 10 to 20 minutes? This is all bar conversation for later. I think it'll look pretty cool. Hanging out there with a giant... I've always wanted to live on a planet with rings. That would look really cool. I mean, Northern Lights are one thing, but rings, that's really cool. Mars will probably have rings.
That would be a thing, could. Right?
Yeah, go cryo.
Take the slow
and then,
path into the future.
Yeah. I've always wanted to hike Olympus Mons as well, which is the highest mountain in our solar system anyway, and that's on Mars. So even though Mars is smaller, they got a bigger mountain, bigger than Everest by quite a margin, but it's not so pretty because there's not snow on top and there's no trees. It looks like a red pimple on the surface of Mars. It's not that pretty. But once we get trees and, an atmosphere and maybe some lakes and rivers and little crawly creatures that run around on the side of the mountain, it'll be pretty interesting to climb. I don't know.
It would be kind of cool if that somehow generates an atmosphere for Mars, but I don't think that's going to happen.
10, 20 million years is a long time. And I think Elon Musk's going to live that long. He has the technology. All right, let's talk about games and stuff for a while. There's a few different sales going on. Right now, the Steam sale is happening. So that's cool. I'm sure everyone knows about that, so we don't need to talk about that. What a lot of people may not know is there is a special sale going on GOG.com. That's GOG.com, or Good Old Games. They actually don't call it Good Old Games anymore. Like when I was talking to the guys from the office, from the Good Old Games offices, I keep saying Good Old Games. They just said, it's GOG, man. It's just GOG, because they're doing new games now as well. But anyway, they have a... special going on for stuff that's only on, GOG.com. So there's special just for them right here. So many good games on here. I just picked up Hard West. I want to try that out. It looks like an interesting turn-based strategy game. Some of the initial, I guess, video footage of it kind of reminded me of some other game. I've forgotten already. I got to remember this. Jagged Alliance. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Jagged Alliance, but I haven't played it yet, so I don't know.
I like that The Witcher 3 is on sale for $30 because I didn't get around to buying it yet.
I bought it, and we've used it several times for benchmarking. And we've got another product back here in the background we got to benchmark. That's a a dual 980 laptop over there from MSI with a Cherry MX brown keyboard. Oh, that'll be coming up in like the next week anyway. But we benchmarked The Witcher on that, and it was at 4K, Wendell, on that laptop. It actually was completely playable. It blew my mind. I'm playing The Witcher 3 at 4K on a laptop. The screen on the laptop's not 4K. We had to plug it up to one of our Korean panels just to see. I was like, huh, that was like really fast at 1080p. Let's plug it up to a Korean 4K monitor. And Kane was like, holy shit, it's really fast at 4K even. So that's a hell of a thing. So yeah, it's crazy. Just for it's a long story, but that's just for benchmarking. That's all I have the.
It's SLI and a laptop, right?
Yeah. It's 980. It's the 980Ms, but still 980Ms is pretty damn fast. It's about the same speed as a 980, and all that nonsense. System Shock is being reimagined by the people who picked up the rights and just released the HD version of System Shock. They were the enhanced edition, right? So where are the guys? Where is it? Where's the name of the company? Irrational Games made it back when. Night Dive Studios. They got their hands on the rights for System Shock. And let's just scroll down and take a look at the pictures. So System Shock, if you guys haven't played it, it's the precursor to all the BioShock games. And then before that, System Shock 2 and then System Shock. But it was one of the first games that took like Doom-style gameplay and then gave you a ton of role-playing elements, like different inventory slots and things like that. And it was a really interesting, immersive world. It was, I don't know, kind of reminded me of the Ultimate Underworld, but in a future spaceship cyberpunk world. So this is what it used to look like, and now they're redoing it, and it's looking pretty good. Not too much going on so far, but it's staying true to the spirit of the original while adding, new technology. They're using the Unity engine, so it's not going to be as pretty as Unreal Tournament, or the Unreal Engine, but you can make stuff pretty nice. They only have one room finished so far with a few robots and some glowing lights. A lot of bloom going on over there. But man, I'm really looking forward to this. The original System Shock game, I thought was probably a deeper game than Part 2, even though Part 2 was better in some ways, a little bit easier to play, more modern looking. Still, it's Part 2, you can still play it today and feel okay about it. Part 1 is just, man, it feels clunky. It is an old game. I am really looking forward to this. So, yeah.
Definitely looks interesting.
Yeah. There's not many games I'm looking forward to these days. It's interesting. So, yeah. Wendell, I was talking to Pistol earlier this week, and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe after you've played so many games, you get to a point where most games are just kind of boring, and there's only a few special games per year. But, she said she used to be at a point where she was playing everything, and then she just played all the games that came out. She just line them up and play them all. But now it's only a few games can hold her interest. And I felt like that for years. I'm not sure if it's getting old or if it's just that you don't have as much free time or if it's just that I think you've just played so many different games over the years that now you're like, you know what, this is just too derivative. You start feeling like you've already played this before and it's not unique or something like that. A game really has to grab me for me to get into it, but I still play a ton. But do you feel like that sometimes too? I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it's just between tedium and it's like it doesn't grab you in the first 5 minutes. It's like, oh, I'm grinding already, and then suddenly I don't play it for 3 months.
Yeah, it's pretty much the way it is. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of this episode of The Tech. I hope you guys enjoyed this live episode, and it wasn't too rough around the edges, being a live episode.
It was awful. It was just awful. And I'm sure the chat will let us know. I've already gotten 3 angry tweets.
Have you? I usually go for about one step above awful. Like, awful's right here. And then every once in a while, I like to go all the way to awful and then back around to good. But I don't think we shot for that this time. We just went for just a little bit above awful.
Any closing thoughts from chat? We'll give you 30 seconds, which should be about 1 second of real time.
While they're doing that, I'll make another sales pitch here for our cool stuff. Guys, please grab the Zweihänder album. It needs you to pay for it. And I know some of you guys picked this thing up on Kick-Ass Torrents and Demonoid and Pirate Bay. Thank you very much. But you guys owe me.
Oh, don't forget about the Galax deals. I think everybody should have got a pre-roll on that, probably.
Yeah, the Galax deals are also really interesting. My favorite deal is the SSD with the graphics card. You get a free 240 gigabyte SSD with the graphics card. So be sure to check out those Galax deals. And thanks to Galax for sponsoring this episode. And also, I want to say thanks to Galax because we're going to be going to China very soon and hanging out over there, going to one of the biggest gaming events in the world. 60,000 estimated gamers are going to show up at this event. There's going to be overclocking and everything else. So Kane and I are going over there on the 15th, and we'll be bringing you the footage right around then. So stay tuned for all that. And last but not least, thanks again for grabbing stuff up on our store. Get those LAN Syndicate tickets. Get a new T-shirt. Hey, we were just talking about System Shock. I totally forgot we had a Look at You Hacker T-shirt that has nothing to do with System Shock.
I think I will also be there at the thing, so you should do that. And thanks very much for all the store stuff, because good Lord, you guys bought a lot of crap. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next
crap,
episode.
it's our craps, just so you know.
Hey, everyone always tweets that it's high quality, and I appreciate that you guys, when you get stuff, I love when you guys tweet, like, hey, thanks for all the stuff or whatever, or when you guys go on the forum and post pictures of all the stuff you got. That's awesome, and we really try for really high quality stuff. Also, I want to mention something. This is probably going to be a spoiler, but Joker. If you guys watch Joker, anybody out there watch Joker? Joker Slunt. He's making a video on all the different surfaces out there. Like, this is not one of our surfaces. I don't know where this Viper. Okay, this is a Patriot Viper. I found that laying around somewhere at PDX. I think it was laying around. But anyway, he did a test with like Meonix and SteelSeries and several different surfaces, different mouse pads, and he found out that ours was the best mouse pad. I knew it felt pretty good. I didn't know it was the best. But in all of his tests, he did like a tracking test and found out that ours was the best. Because we went over there and I demanded the best. I'm like I don't just order stuff from China. I go into their offices and look around at how things are working, and I look at all the products and I test them out, and Kane and I both sit down and test them out. So after we finish with the Galax event, we're actually going back to Shenzhen to look around a little more and maybe get some new mouse pads and that sort of thing. But it's all about quality for you guys. So if you guys appreciate the quality, I don't know, do something cool. Do a backflip and post it on YouTube to say thanks. I don't know. I just make sure everything's quality. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of everything. Wendell, I'll let you do the closing salutation.
Stream's over. Too late. You guys are awesome. Thanks for supporting us. It's really good. But the stream's over. It's come to an end. And I was trying to remember how Mr. Rogers does his exit. I wanted to do the Mr. Rogers exit. But
I feel like I should be playing the piano right now.
So I've forgotten how Mr. Rogers does his thing. So you guys are just going to have to deal.
Just put that in your brain.
See you next time.
See you.